Tactical stance is a hybrid of aiming down sights and hip firing that you do not want to sleep on. This new mechanic will give you a massive advantage in close quarter situations, and it's borderline OP with certain attachments on some weapons. In this video, I'll be breaking down how Tac-Stance works, the best setting to use, and several tips to help you get the most out of it. Tac-Stance does 3 specific things. First, it lets you retain your natural field of view when aiming instead of the crop zoom you get from traditional ADS. This allows you to see more of your surroundings and better track your enemies in close quarters combat, which is where you'll get the most benefit from using Tac-Stance. Second, Tac-Stance gives you a faster movement speed compared to when you are moving fully aimed down sights. ADS slows movement down by 50%. Tac-Stance, however, slows down your movement by only 10%. This applies to both moving while you're firing and while you are not firing. This is such a minor penalty for the accuracy bonuses that you get with Tac-Stance. And that's the third thing this new mechanic does. It tightens up your accuracy. Hip firing is and always has been the least accurate way to fire your weapon. Tac-Stance tightens up your bullet spread significantly. Now, it's not as good as being a fully ADS, but it is enough to be effective within a certain range. The tests I'm sharing with you were all done with an assault rifle. Accuracy will vary per weapon. SMGs will generally be the most accurate, but you can see within 5 meters or less, Tac-Stance tends to be tight enough that your shots won't miss your target. 10 meters is about where you'll start to push the limits of Tac-Stance, and then between 15 and 20 meters, it's completely unusable. But Tac-Stance is more accurate at these distances than hip firing at 10 meters. Just thought that was a little fun fact to share. There are attachments available that will improve your Tac-Stance spread, and you can use these to push the effectiveness of Tac-Stance out to 10 meters, maybe even more. You can see my accuracy with Tac-Stance at 10 meters was on par with my aim down sight spread. This very well may be the new way to make shotguns OP. You can retain the ADS pellet spread that you need to get one shots with shotguns while getting faster movement and making yourself harder to hit. Now, what Tac-Stance does not do is it will not improve your ADS speed. It takes the same time to transition to aiming with Tac-Stance as it does to fully aim down sight. Tac-Stance also does not improve your movement when you are crouched or prone. The movement buff only applies to standing. The only benefit you'll get from using Tac-Stance when you're crouched is the larger field of view. So in most cases, you're going to be better off using normal ADS when crouching. But if you're standing, Tac-Stance is definitely the way to go. Here are 2 situations where you should always be using it. The first is what I've been building to throughout this video. It's close quarters combat. When you are clearing a room, when you're playing Rust and you're in the middle of the map, and anytime you're going to be in a gunfight within 5 meters, using Tac-Stance in this scenario will make you strafe faster than your opponent who is aiming down sights, and thus making you a harder target to hit. Pairing this with Stalker Boots will increase your Tac-Stance strafe speed even more, and when you're up in someone's face, it's going to make you a very hard target to hit. You also will get that larger field of view than if you were aimed down sight, so you can see more of your surroundings and again track your enemies easier. The second scenario for using Tac-Stance is when you are using large optics or thermal scopes. Sometimes I like to rock me a nice ACOG scope, but it's not always viable to use in multiplayer because it's just too much zoom for a close range gunfight. We've all been there when we're in the same room with an enemy and you aim down sight and just completely lose target of them. Now, that's not an issue with Tac-Stance. You can use a high zoom optic for your ranged fights, and then you can switch to Tac-Stance when that scope is too much. I mean, think of all the new opportunities this opens up in a large scale combat like Warzone. Now you can use a high zoom optic instead of a red dot because we have Tac-Stance in this game, and it's going to provide that close range coverage for you. Maybe you can use a secondary sniper instead of an SMG for your close range coverage. There's so many different ways that you can go about utilizing Tac-Stances into your classes and into your gameplay. That brings us to the most important part of the video, using the right settings. You have 4 different options. You have ADS plus sprint, ADS plus melee, ADS plus the down button, and then double tap ADS. I personally like ADS plus sprint. It feels intuitive to me. You can't sprint while you are ADS, so the only reason I'm going to be pressing my sprint button while I'm in ADS is to switch to Tac-Stance. You don't have to move your hands at all with this setting. It's an instant click. It's seamless. I really don't understand why this isn't the default for this mechanic. ADS plus the down button is the default, and you do not want that. Take that off right now. Don't use it. It is so clunky. Ideally, you're going to be activating Tac-Stance when you're on the fly or during a gunfight, and pressing the down button or pressing the melee button will force you to take your thumb off of your aiming stick, which is disruptive and ruins the whole idea of Tac-Stance. It's supposed to be a fluid mechanic. Tactical stance behavior is just as important as the activation setting. Most of the gameplay in this video is actually me using the on toggle setting, and that's because I didn't know this was an actual setting. What I'm using now is the once setting. I like once because it gives you more control and feels more intuitive. This setting will always default to a normal ADS, but with the sprint activation, you can near instantly switch to Tac-Stance whenever you want to. The thing with on toggle is that Call of Duty gets hectic sometimes, and you don't always have the time to toggle it on and off when you want to. I often found myself forgetting if I had Tac-Stance on or off, and I'd be flicking through the settings a couple times. And on top of that, when you want to turn it on in preparation of a gunfight, you have to stop sprinting with on toggle. It doesn't take long to activate, but I do find the settings clunky, and you may have noticed that clunkiness in some of my gameplay. That's why I've switched to once. It's similar to sprint versus the down button. Once versus on toggle isn't as drastic as those settings, but I do find once gives me more granular control. So start practicing Tac-Stance with these settings. It may take some time to adjust to, but I promise you this is something that you are going to want to learn. A lot of people have been ignoring Tac-Stance because those default controls are very clunky, but now you know what Tac-Stance has to offer, and now you know how to properly use it. If you found this video helpful, please do not forget to tap that like button. It'll greatly appreciate it. Also consider subscribing to the channel. I got a bunch of more great Modern Warfare 3 content in the works just like this. Yeah, that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.